And we're live now.
They should be able to hear us. All they see is a logo, I think. It says we're live. So, can you hear this?
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it,
Yeah,
you
we'll
think
see if
it's
someone
real, because that's how powerful our
responds.
minds are. And the ride goes up and down and round and
Chat.
round.
Okay,
It
it
has
looks like
thrills and
something's
chills, and it's very
happening.
brightly colored,
Shane
and it's
took the
very
host of the
loud,
Zoom, thank
and
you.
it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long
So
time, and
if
they begin
anyone's
to
there to
question, is this
respond
real,
in
or is it just a
chat to let
ride?
us know
And
if
other people have remembered, and
this
they
is
come back to
working.
us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a
I'm not
ride.
sharing audio.
And we
What the fuck's
kill those people.
playing on the screen?
Shut him up.
Bill Hicks.
We have a lot
I
invested
had
in
to
this
find my
ride. Shut
controls
him
so I can
up.
stop share.
Look at my furrows of
Hold on.
worry. Look at my big bank account and my
Stop.
family. This
Okay.
has to be real.
Oh, you were playing a clip. Okay.
Yeah, I'm hooked to the OBS because I thought Shane wasn't going to show. So, we launched because we think Shane was going to host, but he was having connection difficulties. And this is the cluster that you get when me and the Lunatic try to go live on the spur of the moment. Hi, everybody. Can you see us? Can you hear us?
Looks like we're coming through now to me. Hold on, I gotta show that. Yeah.
Excellent.
Nolan
Hey,
says
Nolan.
it's working.
What's up? Nolan,
Welcome, Nolan.
how's it going, man?
All right, so do you want to take it away? Do you want to launch into tonight's program?
Tonight's program. Let's live up to the description, right? And the description was pretend you're CIA and watch a private conversation.
Yes, and
So,
this we labeled this as post-truth confessional.
yeah, so I don't know.
But I labeled the last one Lunatic Patrol, and it had the dinosaur head screaming at that little guy, and that was all about the Virgin Mary and God. So the title doesn't necessarily represent the content.
Well, at least the audience knows what to expect with that regard. I don't know, pretty much in the same place I was a year ago, right? And so, to the extent of we like to watch people fumble when they try to sort themselves out here, I'm sorting myself out. I mean, because that that may have been what the theme of the first season. Um, Forgive my distraction, but I haven't apparently sorted much in a year if I'm in the exact same spot, which is like feeling like in order to stop streaming, I have to, um, what do they call that? Cathartically vomit information about the experience as much as wants to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like, as a cautionary tale, if anybody else wants to have reason to avoid being sucked down the rabbit holes, I've, I'm, I don't know, if you take it that from inside the rabbit hole, or before I went in the rabbit hole, I was just playing video games. Climbing back out of the rabbit hole is kind of leading me back to that same spot. So I'm not saying I'm any better off for having went down the rabbit hole, but I have. And if there's anything that needs to come of
Why
that.
don't you try to give a recap for anyone who doesn't know who you are at all, in case someone's coming across this just off the title?
Okay.
It's like when you said I'm back where I was a year ago. Yes, Nolan knows where that was. But for anyone who doesn't, why don't you start with some sort of recap, and then that might just naturally lead you into talking about everything that you want to sort of vomit up and just to examine what the fuck it is you've been eating.
All right. Once upon a time, uh, these superior intelligences looked at the monkeys and they said, "Let us make them in our image," and genetically engineered them. and a couple of them had sex and made a baby. Many, many, many years later, I too was born onto this planet into a human body. Um, at some point in my life, I decided that the proper approach to life was, NPC as little as you had to for your monies, and then entertain yourself the rest of the time. So I have I have 3 decades of experience in being entertained, and I don't know. I think people act like being the product of that comes out as interesting to them sometimes. So um, I like the feedback when that happens. So I ended up no, I'm spinning. Um, as is relevant to this audience as much as possible is the directive. And so by the directive, I one of my friends from Google Plus fed me a Jordan Peterson video that was like the seventh in the Maps of Meaning series. And then the people who made this channel, like one of them, the guy who started this channel, got on with Peterson in the I was binging Jordan Peterson YouTube content phase of my life, which ran alongside playing video games and listening to Joe Rogan a lot. Um, that led me to living in Portland, playing video games, listening to Joe Rogan. I had made it out to Portland, and I was gonna get into the marijuana industry because I was probably gonna have to work for the next 30 to 40 years of my life, and that seemed like a good field to get into. So logically, that's what I was pursuing when I went out there. When I got out there, it didn't feel right to get into it. It was like I don't know, maybe it was my own inability to manage my own use. It was like you can't go down this road. It's not good for you. But there was something that anytime I thought about like as far as like the jobs I looked for weren't in the field. So there was part of me that was like no to the notion that I had told myself and everyone when I came out there. But that wasn't happening. But I was using a lot and sitting on the back porch getting a lot of sun with a three-legged cat and a cat with one eye would come by and visit when I would go out on the porch because I smoke outside. I smoke a lot. Um, and I was watching these videos and I came across live streaming. And it was done in the way I came across it. It was a truther live streamer who, um, like, live streamed the backstage work essentially to produce finished videos on YouTube. And like you could hang out and become part of the people hanging out backstage um, if you went over on Twitch. And that led to uh, well, I can't go all the way to where it led to yet. That'd be weird. Hi everybody.
You can jump to where it's weird if you want. Like for now, people aren't commenting much beyond like some just support, people saying that they're glad to be here or something. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about where the jumps go from there for the audience. Even though I brought you back to the audience to do your recap of everything up till now, I would just let your mind go wherever the fuck it is you need to. And as far as like if you're thinking what use is that, a lot of people here like seeing sessions of people working their shit out. And even if they can't follow the logic of your narrative, they may enjoy what like may still get something out.
Yeah, somewhere along the a line, I think probably because Twitch is a thing, and I was showing you that when we were trying to stream earlier. I don't know
Hmm.
if that's a good take. If I should be trying to play clips and stuff. Um, but I can if the audience wants me. If I reference something and you guys want to see it, by all means, let me know. Um, so there I am, sitting on the back porch watching YouTube videos, and I get sucked into this what people from the inside. It's like I got so sucked in that people involved, like in the backstage of the backstage, were like, I think this is a LARP, dude. You know what I mean? So it's like, and that's that it would be or could be was there's a part of me that is so offended by the notion that such a thing like that line had been crossed that it was allowed to happen that I felt like diving in full bore would help shine the light of that, I think. Um, so like when people would warn me, they're like, "This is bull," they'd say that I could easily deflect because I don't like
Okay.
what it means.
Yeah. So my question is, what I pick up off you, and again, like this is just so I can get the feedback if I'm right or not. What I pick up on off you is that when you were presented with the idea that, like, dude, this isn't what it looks like, your emotional reaction was, well, I can't accept that because if I can't trust this, then I can't trust fucking anything.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. It wasn't about not trusting it. It was about it's kind of like if it was a LARP, it's at the same level of people calling grandparents saying, "Oh, Johnny's been in an accident," and if you don't send money, like that level of offensive of a thing to be doing, I think.
Okay.
So it's just like like I have a lot of sympathy for people taking advantage of people, but there's like a vulnerability line that if you go after that groups below the vulnerability line that shouldn't have known better,
Mm-hmm.
then you've crossed the line. And I don't know. And but anyway, so I started watching with the community, and dude streams like 3 or 4 hours, right? And I was there every day, and basically the live streaming of the truther community is show and tell. It's like it's like me watching videos or parts of videos and like changing the channel, and then having people there with me when I do it. It's like an extra directed watch party mainly. Like there's different levels of people cobbling together what they're going to show and present, but it's basically show and tell. And
What's the purpose of the people consuming it? Like, I know it's conjecture on your part, but are people showing up there to get like information, or are they showing up there for community and interaction? There's two kinds of show and tell. There's the kind of show and tell that is, this is community interaction. Tell me about what you've been doing this week, or tell me what you've been thinking about. And then there's the kind of show and tell where it's people are sifting through and giving you important information. Which kind of thing was this, do you feel?
it's an interesting metric. Um, whether or not the information is important.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, that's sort of what I'm wondering. What, like, was the main point the actual information, or was it just community, or was the main point primarily the information for the people there?
well, it's the myth, I would say, that if the truth gets out to enough people, things will change. And
Okay,
and it feeds that.
okay.
That like if if enough people knew how bad it really was, somebody would do something. And so it's always looking at how bad things are and where the lies are. What's mainly it's finding the lies more than revealing the truth, honestly. But that's the gist of it, I would say. If that's not clear enough, by all means.
So I'm getting then that the emotion, like that, it's like, yeah, that my metric was off, and that really it was about people were gathering for the sense of adding momentum to something to result in change.
Yeah, I think that's what it feels
Okay.
like, and the
So
you're
it feels
part
like
of
being
that community
productive.
though. Like you're
Okay.
part of that
So it's
community, and yeah,
the same, like emotional feedback that people get from activism. Like the activity feels productive, feels like doing something with the information. So it's not about gathering the information for yourself so much as it's about putting the information to use.
particularly with me, it was. I don't think there was any information I could find that would change my perspective. So it was more about um, you find stuff that matches the confirmation bias
Mhm.
that things are bad, and if people find out how bad it is, then they'll change. And so that's the kind of what you're looking for, what you're sharing. But
Okay. And did you ever feel you made progress with that?
I did to the extent that I think I made the special victims unit connection based on my own consumption of the various channels.
Okay.
It's like I don't know, it's one of those things you first discover when you're homesick, but like from school. But USA Network would run like marathons of stuff. And one of those things is the special victims unit on Law and Order, which is always sex crimes. And so it's like it got to the point where I felt like I was watching. I was a person who watched marathons about sex crimes, because I was always looking at how evil everything. Like I was always looking for the evil, and I had become a person that consumed and promoted that. I was just feeding something, and that was what was being fed. Um, and so it got hard to want to find stuff to show people. And I didn't do very good with getting people, because like I have the whole beholder concept, which is a monster in Dungeons and Dragons. I think I can let me grab a picture of that one for people. Actually, I got this picture still. No, that's a bad one.
And since you're not falling into one of your flows of knowing where to go with your thoughts
mm.
yet so far, so I'm going to try a different tactic of, if anyone has specific questions for Grids, we will check the comments every so often. So I see a couple people have commented, but there's not really like a question or anything yet. Yeah, so if anyone has a specific question, we'll check every so often.
So that thing I
And
just showed was a beholder.
And that wasn't a criticism saying that you haven't fallen into a flow state. Those are things that just happen. I'm just saying we haven't found that in this conversation yet.
I'm trying to hold the stream long enough to justify a smoke break. But
Well, is that the problem?
no, I
That
just
your mind, that half your mind is thinking about your smoke break?
no, I'm just saying stay tuned, folks, because YouTube likes it when you watch for a long time, and the good stuff is coming. Um, yeah, I'm not there, and I know I'm not there. So you saying it doesn't, yeah, no, that's fine. But I got the beholder concept is something I would like to do. It's like, because a lot of what goes on in the chat in those rooms is people vying for the host to cover this or that, and whether or not those people are paid to do that is probably not the case most of the time, because it's usually, I would think, just people wanting attention. But
That
like,
doesn't seem like something you should need to pay for. People want attention.
yeah. So but it's like there's so much like of the stuff that gets covered, there's evidence supporting the notion that governments are paid to manage opinions and watch for this and that, and so they're in there and involved. And at one point, it got really weird because it was people would talk to me as if I was somebody who was affiliated, like I knew things that I didn't know. It was they would assume I knew them, and that was that was,
Projection.
that was really awkward. But I let them run with it to see if any information came from it, but it really didn't. Um, like the bottom of the government is corrupt hole for me was the Russian general. Um, he's in Russian. He does subtitles, but he talks about how the pyramid works is that it's a knowledge control structure, and all you get to know is what you need to know to exist on the level you're on. And
Yeah.
he
Plenty
made
of organizations operate that way openly.
right, and he said his main point was that the people who control it control the money, and they figured out the way to keep control is to invent middle management, which is a group targeted by hate groups. Um, and he said that that's just middle management, and that it's still the Egyptian priesthood that's running way down deep. And so, like, once I got that, nothing else, everything else was just like decorations and bells and whistles on how that was happening. But that is the foundation makes the most sense, and it's like the best mafia is the one that gets to be the government. You know, it's the battle for control. The control is always going to be control. And I think like the main difference between a year ago and now is that ev like when the news media and the mayors and the governors got involved on this virus ID LARP, it was just like, okay, if everybody, we're always at war with Eurasia. We're always going to be at war with Eurasia. So why not just play video games and like try to touch lives closer than, I mean, there is no getting enough information out to change the system. You have to change the system by like close, what's next to you, and then that will spread. You can't do top down because top down is bad. But to get to the top, you have to do bad things or be willing to not speak when bad things happen near you.
So is that why you liked Peterson when he came out? Because you listen to Peterson for a while, he starts giving you all kinds of fucking reasons to do exactly that. Well, not the play video game. Actually, no. Even by his model, really, he gives you every excuse to drop out of thinking of all of that and do exactly what you said. To play video games at least a healthy amount of time and to try to make positive change in what you can directly have control of. So was that the appeal of Peterson then for you?
No, Peterson, when my friend guy read me the lecture, like 'cause Peterson did all of his lectures from like 3 or 4 years of his Maps of Meaning lectures before he took a stand on forced compelled speech and became popular.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked my way through the lectures, and he was doing like Patreon Q&As where you could buy in and actually talk to him for the first couple months. And so like I had been working through the lectures when he was at that point, like right before he went on Rogan and stuff. So I was following his work. And then
Okay.
when his work became promoting 12 rules for life, I lost interest. But like even before like not following his new stuff, there was a there was like this giant disappointment that came about the time of He was in the middle of the Bible, or it was not in the middle necessarily, but it was somewhere in the Bible series where it's Noah, I think, and his son calls him out for like getting drunk and stuff. And it was that part of the lecture, and it was like, in those comments, I did that. So it's like I was turning on him by then. Um, but really disappointed me when he did his for creative people, like his friend that apparently didn't make it. Um, where the big advice is to get a job and do it in your spare time.
And his advice being also like, suck up the fact that you're weird, be normal. He's got a certain amount of that message to him for the, yeah, and to the creative type. It's like, exactly, suck it up, be normal enough to hold a regular job, pursue your creative stuff on the side.
Yeah, and it's like that's fine, but that's not that's that's him just telling creative people that he doesn't have what they need. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's all sorts of different people, and his message lands with a lot, I think, because
Although
like,
he added to it that, on the other hand, for the rare individual going completely off the rails, they can be exceptional in a way no one else can. He says, hey, if that's you, do it. But his point is just most people can't do that.
I think at that
And
point I was still in denial about accepting that I wasn't normal enough to ever be normal. Like, 'cause I'm
although, like,
almost,
obviously, I as well don't live by that part of Peterson's advice at all.
it's like I always try to convince myself I was close enough to pass as far as normality went, but no, not really. Not, and being true is the only thing that's being anything but true to yourself is self-harm.
Well, it depends. Being true to the worst and self destructive parts of you isn't good, but I would say being true to the best parts of you is what you have to do.
I was thinking about that. It's like you know solipsism or
Solipsism.
solipsism, that one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what about the inversion of that? No,
Everyone's real but you.
there's no name for like I'm secretly the devil.
Well,
Here's
actually, that would. Well, solipsism isn't that you're secretly God. It's just that you're the only one who's conscious. And you could argue that as God or the devil. It leaves all that aside. It's just saying you're the only one here that's real. Solipsism. So that's not I'm God or I'm the devil necessarily. There could still be a God and a devil, and it's just that they've made this whole dimension and you're the only consciousness in it, is my understanding of solipsism.
there's that level of stuff too that like the whole truth spreading community doesn't address. It like,
Oh, and we do have one question here for you. So, are different government agents or are different governments working together or against each other? And are people within governments fighting against the corruption? Or is it all just corrupt? So, like, are there really governments fighting together? Like, all the different countries, are they really fighting each other over shit? Or does this Egyptian priesthood have them all working together and that's all theater to manipulate us?
well, like I would say like Snowden is probably all show. He's probably um, what's his name? The whole WikiLeaks situation is like, if you have any leaks, send it to WikiLeaks. That's like what a honeypot. That's you do learn some interesting things like COINTELPRO is a thing that exists and disinformation. Like like after getting in deep enough into conspiracy stuff, I found out that Joe Rogan traces to the disinformation company and this stuff. And so it's like there's this line from a song by Sage Francis that goes, "If you look for something long enough, you're guaranteed to find it." And that kind of rings true with like if you're looking into how bad things are. So,
So do you think the opposite's true? If you were geared the other way and you were searching for every way that humanity is being run, like actually people fighting for the good, do you think you would find as much of it?
it would, I don't know, that feels like this one time I watched a Saturday Night Live skit uh, about Stuart Smalley, I think. The I'm good enough, I'm smart
Yep.
enough, people like
Smart
me guy.
enough.
And so when I went to like actual therapy
Mm-hmm.
and the lady recommended affirmations, like I was already programmed against it. And like trying to look on the bright side and point to like finding the good thing, it feels like making yourself do an affirmation. And it's just,
Although, if there were people secretly trying to keep you blind to your own enlightenment so that they can manipulate you, isn't that how they would program you so that things like gratitude and affirmations feel fucked up to you? And you're like, yeah, I can't do that shit.
well, it is from Saturday Night Live, and it's
Exactly.
giant media. Sure, sure.
Oh, and by the way, for everyone listening, this conversation, me and Grizz aren't discussing objective truth here. We're trying to understand how he perceives the world.
Oh, well, if you, I can, we can go to that level if you want, but I'm not there yet. Um, but back to that question, like, before you're corrupt, do you think you're doing good when you're following orders of corrupt people?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that angle. So,
Although, aren't some people, before they're corrupt, aren't they following orders and doing good work? Some people, some places. And don't some people manage to live a life without being corrupted?
I don't know, I haven't met any. No. Um, I'm going from the angle on the are the governments all playing the game too?
Yeah, but it also asked, like, and is anyone fighting it? So that's what I'm asking. Like, is there any government person who's actually fighting the good fight their whole life? Or do you think it's all corrupt? And again, or is there any government, like, are there any better governments than worse ones actually fighting towards things? Or is everything a fucking show and it's all corrupt? From you, just from your perspective.
Well, from my perspective, we will be really lucky if we're not the new North Korea. And on the global level, like you have nations doing whatever, but you have global corporations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that's a meta size difference. There's one like you you can't not you can't ban smoking in Uruguay without getting sued or whatever by the global corporation. So as far as the whole power structure goes, I think they decide what nation's going to be what, and then the governments of those nations play that role. And I think like if you get
Okay.
elected president, they take you into a room and say this is what you're going to do, or because if you love anything, the big bad evil can say do this or, and there you are. So I think everybody does as much good as they can from where they are. I don't think there's a whole lot of people that are in it trying to be I mean, they might be after power or whatever, but I think everybody tries to do their
Okay, wait.
as
Like when you
least harm
said,
as they can.
like when you were pointing out that perspective that as long as you've got anything you love, you're vulnerable, that this cabal can take control over you. And so, how many people, like, what percentage of us actually ever bump into that? Like,
I,
how much of us do they give a shit about?
I would say that like you would have to really ruffle some feathers, and that would be really interesting. It'd be interesting how you would do that in a way that they wouldn't have law enforcement snatch you up way before you annoyed them. So I would say that like I guess the targeted individuals, but to the extent that they're real, it they could just be the random number that was pulled on who do we run this experiment on. They might not be targeted for any good reason. So
Okay.
No, it's not going to be a problem you're likely to face. I think at most somebody
Like
else.
only if you're doing some sort of truther work or a journalist or something like major corporate level stuff. So you're saying,
I think you. I think by the time you would have anything worth bringing to the public, you know better than to bring it to the public,
okay,
so that nobody's going to run into that, or like the numbers as nominal as the people who see the Men in Black about the aliens that they've already contacted. You know, it's like that small of a number. But it's
and if this
there,
has been
and you know
going
it's
on that
there.
long, are they at the point like do they have what they want, or do you perceive they're working still towards something different? That are they working out some plan that takes thousands of years? Or are we just at this is exactly what they want and they just want to maintain this?
What do I actually think is going on? Let me see. I think it's
But also
probably
like why? Why go through that all that effort? Like if this ruling class has that kind of understanding of reality that they can manipulate us all, why are they wasting their time on or maybe not wasting? Why this and not everything else they could be doing with that power?
maybe everything else they could be doing with that power is a lot more limited than you're imagining, or maybe this is their job, and like this whole thing is a spiritual experience where budding souls get to learn how hard things can be or how limited they can be. Like
Where we get to play an adventure game and have something to fight against.
it's like metaphysically, it barely matters. Like it gets to the point where like sure, it's most likely that the reptilians run things. And whether or not reptilians are actually alien reptilians or it's just the serving the lower reptilian brain instincts of humanity and feeding off the energy of it, like feeding into your sin. Um, where was I going with that? Yeah, I think if it's a plan that is we're food is all. It's not like they can. This is it's probably more of a job controlling humanity than
Yeah, it doesn't sound fun to me.
being the
It's not what I
prince.
would do with my time.
No, no, I think it's like when I used to work for a urologist and he made a lot of money and so I was into making money at the time. I was excited about it. And then I realized dude sticks his finger in somebody's butt every day, multiple times. That's his life. Was
Yeah,
he, and sure he makes lots of money, but and so that's probably right when I started souring on the system, but
maybe that's his passion, putting his fingers in butts, though, and a
it
lot
could
of
be.
money is just a nice side,
It
like
could be,
side bonus.
But like that didn't fit for
And that
me.
would make a nicer town if everyone was just doing what they love to do. If the baker just was someone who loved to bake, and if the proctologist just loved butts. It's better than thinking everyone's forced to do it for their rent check.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna project, it's better to project people are happy doing what they're doing. I don't know.
All I'm saying is the reality to work towards.
That's
I
that's
would
a big
rather if
absence. That's where there's a giant void for me. Like when it comes to the future of humanity, as far as what to work toward, particularly since uh, multi-dimensional travel seems more likely than interstellar travel, if space is even real. Um,
well, of course, multi-dimensional travel is possible. People are born and die every day.
right? So,
Yeah.
but like the humanity working towards something is I see the main two paths we have right now is like the Luddite Amish and the like transhumanist crawl in crawl your consciousness into a virtual environment. Seem like the two.
Well, maybe there's a middle way.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I'm just saying that's a problem I have right now is I don't see there's like I can't join my life and I can't join the Space Force and put my all into it after having crawled down these conspiracy rabbit holes and just seeing day after day, seeing how bad it is, where, you know. So, yeah, that's why I'm crawling back into video games. Is because, like, if we get herded into virtual silos, um, it'd be nice to know people who develop them, and, you know, so there's that. I don't know. I feel this is a letdown. Are you let down, audience? Am I letting you down? Did you expect more from me? I expected more from me.
See if we have any. Oh, we missed a bunch of comments. I think, Mike, the comments weren't coming through for me. My comment chat thing was frozen for a while, I think. Can you see them directly?
Let me see. Oh, me. I have to listen to myself if I'm not careful, and then everybody else does too.
I had been thinking for a while, like, wow, people are quiet, but that wasn't true at all.
No, yeah.
Yeah, mine had been frozen, and I don't feel like staring at those little letters at the moment.
Yeah,
That was giving me a headache.
You know, I thought your intern was going to be here, and that I would be able to,
Yeah, there you go. It's not our fault that you didn't get that flow going.
so.
Shane's fault.
It looks like Nolan's getting banned.
Yeah, I saw something about Ryan is fucking working for the CIA now and has turned on Nolan. I hope you got paid well, Ryan.
Not Nolan.
Is that what happened?
Not Nolan. Come on.
Yeah.
Who would talk to you like that, Graham? I don't remember who was talking to me. Transformational facilitator, CIA shill.
Yep.
Gloff is coming in late, but will we listen? Is Joe Rogan controlled? Oh, wow. There's a clip of him saying, like, at the end of his, series he did, where he pretended to question everything, that basically that he would sell his mother if they would tell him the secrets, so I would say that was probably his motive. And I think Gloff doesn't think he's a controlled opposition, because he's probably not controlled opposition. There's probably a different category. Oh wow, it's showing me watching the comments. That's not good. That should be over here. And then you should be... that's how it should be.
But anyway, this is labeled Lunatic Live, and my standard of broadcasting is very low, so this is fine.
Man, the numbers have been screwing with me. And here's another example. 11 watching, 42 minutes. Yeah.
What's fucking with you about 11:42?
11 is like the Baba Wanyama guy's thing. Like 11:11 is how he ended up in Tanzania or whatever.
Yeah, 11:11's everyone's thing, and 11's one of the master builder numbers and all that shit.
And 42 is 7 6s, and it's also the hitchhiker. Like mainly, it's a hitchhiker number.
Oh right, it's the hitchhiker's galaxy. So. Yeah, but if you know enough, you'll be able to do that with just about any number. If it was 32, I could be like, that's the 32nd path of the Kabbalah, and that's so important. If it's
Is the 32nd path of the Kabbalah important? I'm curious about that sort of thing. Let me see if I pop out chat. Maybe I can.
Okay, but so all this activity with this framework and set of knowledge, the problem here seems to be that you haven't found it satisfying. Like if you had enjoyed all of this and were perfectly content with what you were doing right now.
Well, when I ended up back here, when I was actively streaming when I did my road trip to this place, and then it was a couple months after that that the content started to get dry for me. Like looking into it, there wasn't anything interesting enough to bring to people's attention anymore, and I wasn't getting fed like the beholder thing I was saying. It's like all those little eyes find interesting stuff, and then it projects out the big eye. Was the notion of how I wanted to run a channel, and either I don't have the social skills or the staying power or the consistency or whatever it takes to build a group of people that did that. So
Oh, okay. And by the way, people are commenting. We're not letting them down with this. So I think you and me are just feeling grumpy, perhaps. Rojo and Martin and Andrew apparently are all enjoying this.
good. I like it. I like it when
So
people
we can
enjoy.
stop wasting time apologizing for
May-
not doing better.
Maybe they like it when we apologize. All right.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that then.
Don't.
I'm Canadian, so culturally that comes easy.
Okay. What is structurally very similar to Catholicism because it differs to scholars on interpretation, with 12 Shia having essentially a type of apostolic succession. God, Gloff, can you just come on and talk about all the shit you read? You know,
You want to shoot off the link and have him just join us?
I don't know if now's a good time, but maybe. Gloff, like people who studied stuff are my favorite, man. Like, really, what I like my personal goal when I was at that point in trying to stream was, I was shooting for James Spader in Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
I haven't seen that, and I don't. Yeah, none of that
It's
means
a
anything to me.
he. I mean, that was the movie, but basically he was some creepy dude who made videotapes of people talking open and honestly, and he just kept them for himself, probably to jerk off to or whatever. But
That was your goal,
well, yeah, I liked like the confession video interview part, except it was gonna be YouTube instead of videotape, and
so that you can masturbate to it
it
later.
didn't have to be about sex, but just the I guess like that was the only way he could have intimacy was like that level of confessional dialogue. And
Okay, wait. So are you saying that rather than any more being interested in sort of dry statistics, you wanted to hear authentic confessions about what it's like to be human from an individual?
yeah, it was like
Okay,
that,
I
that
understand that.
I wanted like what interested me. Like I'd like to interview the people streaming and say, "What's up? Like, why are you a
Mhm.
narcissistic?" But it's just I didn't have
Okay.
whatever I needed to do it, and
Well,
usually I chalk stuff up to like I didn't want it enough to do it, and
most of you really want to do it, you can. I'm a fucking YouTube streamer now, and go ahead and grill me about my narcissism if you want.
not on your own channel. That I wanted it to be on my channel.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I was there today and the fucking connection didn't work. I'll come back and you
Yeah, that
can
was
live out that
interesting.
dream and see whether it's any fun.
Right.
And
We can play
maybe
songs
you can
there,
still.
so that's nice.
What
Um,
was that?
we can play songs there, but that's nice. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like I quit. I started streaming again when I got this new computer, and I don't know. It was just mostly weird schizo stuff. It wasn't truther-ish, but like the people, like when I tried to switch to running the game, it was like the people that were there didn't match up with what I was trying to do anymore, and it felt weird. And so I don't know if I'm gonna keep streaming, but if I do, it's probably not gonna be truth or adjacent anymore. And so I feel like I'm quitting again, like I did last year, and I owe the people that do come around some kind of explanation for, because it does mean a lot to me when like the 12 various people, and that's being generous, come by, because especially the ones that they come by and they stay and they come by a lot. So it feels like I'm actually doing something for them, and I'm letting them down if I don't stream something.
Yeah,
But
but I would imagine they'd rather you have a fulfilling life and stop streaming if that's what it takes, then worry. Like, I bet that they wouldn't at all want to be that kind of pressure on.
No, it's not pressure. It's good to. I mean, it's the closest thing to connection truthers get a whole lot of, because that view of the world makes the world a very hostile place. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like all the people staying home watching uh, the murder mysteries, the Dateline NBC stuff. It like reinforces that the world is scary, and it makes socializing very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I go out now, people are wearing masks and they think COVID's real. So the finding anybody to interact with online that you don't have to curb what you actually think with is rare. And like, these people showed up for me, like, and that meant uh, all the people just now getting into quarantine will find out soon enough how much they miss human connection. Um, I think. Gore, hello. More apologies, Patty. I'm sorry I didn't apologize enough for
Yeah,
you.
I'm sorry, Pat. And I'm sorry we held the last Lunatic Live or Lunatic Patrol when you couldn't show up. Was that last night or the night before? Anyway, whenever the fuck that was. Sorry.
No, but like this whole stream that's happening tonight started because Lloyd Kaufman is your friend, and I saw this weird video where he was holding briefcases of cheese pizza. And that's what being a truther does to you. And I guess that's what I wanted to confess,
Or I also want to point out that mindset also made you block someone
That's true.
in essentially a delusional state. Do you get what I
I,
mean?
I had jumped to that conclusion.
Yes.
It's just,
Well, and that's what I've noticed is like whether it's an ideology, a religion, or whatever, these frameworks we set as the main way to look at life dramatically affect our experience of it to the point that it's magical and seems more like reality altering than just a psychological effect. Like, I mean, phenomenological. And yes, I observed that in you, that the focus you have had completely colors all of your experiences.
but it seems like it's the truth. It seems the most accurate representation of reality.
Everyone feels that way about the one they're using. That's also how I feel about my weird, and mine's a weird one where it's almost like chaos magic, where my thing is that the truth is we can jump to these, but mine's also just another framework. And every single person in chat, whatever they're saying, is also because to them that just seems like the true one.
Okay,
Which is part of like that enlightenment at certain levels of magical and spiritual traditions. Everybody walks around absolutely hypnotized by their own mind, interpreting it as obviously objectively more true than all these other frameworks. Where the truth is, we can choose to jump between all of these, and none of them are either right, or in a way, none of them are either wrong. They're all intentional, limited experiences. And that this is all intentional, that we can get caught and have these. And that you can learn through various methods, or you can have it happen by accident, that you shift to another framework and life changes.
that's the shifting framework part is interesting, because for me at least there's this built-in sense of dishonesty in choosing framework. It's like if you don't come by it naturally, it's like it's okay to be deceived if you don't deceive yourself, I guess, with regard to falling
Choosing to
into
use a
framework.
framework is not being deceived by it. It's like each framework is like a tool in a toolbox. When it's time to use a hammer, you use the hammer. So when it's time to think about things perhaps scientifically, for what you're doing, you think about it scientifically. When you're at the point where really what you need is therapy and shadow work, you look at your whole fucking life through subpersonalities. You reframe everything through that to do that work. If you want to fucking bliss out, you pick one of the hippie or, the spiritual things. It's what experience of life do you want to have? Do you want to understand it scientifically? Do you want, and even with all of that, there's varieties of experience. But also, at least to me, it seems like none of us know what we're talking about. Not me, not you, not David Icke. There is
that
no
level.
person around here that knows the real story. Whatever the fuck's going on is too much for any of us to understand. So it's not a matter of deceiving yourself, like picking a framework that isn't the real one. It's that there's no such thing as a real framework for our level of consciousness. We can't understand it all. A real framework is too big for us. And the way to understand the real one, jump around through a bunch of them. And then don't focus so much on each one. Like in Promethea, the snakes are talking at one point and they say it's like music. You can't focus too much on any one note. You have to release your focus to hear the symphony. Dive into a whole bunch of frameworks, understand them from within, jump back out, jump in, and you begin to see some sort of pattern underneath that's bigger, and that each of them are grafting onto part of it. And then you begin to intuitively feel when it's time to go into which framework.
I guess that's the...
And if you get really good at it, you can run one or two at the same time. Like you could listen to Harris and Peterson, and if you can handle it, you can kind of get both of their frameworks going at the same time and start looking at certain situations. And that's where you look for the Venn diagram overlap. Like, hey, from both Peterson and Sam Harris's perspective, at least it's clear what to do here, even though there's parts that disagree. You start trying to overlap frameworks and find out, what works in this framework, what works in that. And if you can find something that works in all of them, go with it. And for me, the honesty one is one. Unless you want to pick an intentionally corrupt framework. Like, unless you want to pick the Luciferian, like you're out for yourself, or a solipsistic or something. Like, unless you want to choose the dark side. There's tons of good side frameworks. And in all of them, honesty is the best policy. So for me that's something meta. That's a golden rule of the universe.
There's the aspect where there's a sense of community of shared framework, and that shifting feels sort of like a distancing, if not a breakup. It's like...
And there you go. That's the benefit also of a framework, is community. And so if you can understand a framework, you can step into a community then. If you can understand, I guess I'm thinking back, I don't know what the modern punk scene is, but if you can understand the framework of the punk scene, when I was a teenager, you just have to understand that framework. You show up and you've got a community. Everyone accepts you. Oh, you use the same framework as us.
Right.
You can understand the flat earth framework. Then if you go to that community, you're accepted. If you can understand the Star Trek fan framework, then all you have to do is learn that framework, and when you show up, you're accepted. Yes, that's one thing frameworks do for us. And when you learn to jump frameworks, then you can be friends with multiple communities. You can have your Star Trek uniform on one weekend, and you can be at the hippie meditation thing another weekend, and you can be at a flat earth event a third weekend if you know how to step into all those frameworks.
It's just like the fascinating amount of time people spend in these chat rooms together, watching the same thing together. It's
because that's what life is. There's people around you, and you're observing things together. There goes the deer. We enjoy pointing at things. That's what life is. We're here, and we're observing things all the time, and it feels good to observe things together. It's nice to point out the moon. It's nice to sit with someone at the sunset. It's really nice to sit with a dozen people who feel like a community and watch a sunset. Yeah. But since we're not around fires anymore, and we're not on the porch with our neighbor and all of these things, pointing out to each other, we're all staring at screens all day. So of course we want to have a part on the side of the screen that's other people watching the same thing as us.
Hi, chat. Um, Speaking of which, Martin wants my top five spiciest conspiracies. And like, I don't know how to determine spice, but here goes.
That sounds racist. He's asking for, I think,
Latin
Mexican
conspiracies?
conspiracies. Yeah, fucking racism. Well, go ahead and answer it.
Okay, so the top five. The first is the deep underground bunker one, which is like they eat. There's terribly evil people that run the world, but for the most part, they just eat the children that they grow in the deep underground bunkers and the cloning vats and facilities. So like, like, unless somebody wants something especially fresh or whatever, most people are safe, but they're doing terrible, terrible things. Um, Another one is my biggest one is that like Moses was a psyop. You take all the people, and you go march them in the desert for a desert that takes 2 weeks to cross. And you march them in there for 40 years. Everybody who knows the old ways are the first ones to drop. And you spend all day indoctrinating them in the new way to believe. And the next thing you know, you have middle management. So, and that that far back could have been a psyop. Just kind of that's why it makes it one of the spiciest ones, I think. Um, Space is fake. That's a good one. Um, the actual shape of the Earth is we're like a dimple on the moon in a crater, and it's like we're like a petri dish essentially among stacks and stacks of petri dishes. We're on the prime material plane. There's the astral plane. It's all there's not the spinning ball thing, um, but it's like in a multi-dimensional interface, the plane can be represented as the icon as a planet. So it can look like a planet to us, but when we're there, it's actually a plane. So there's that angle. Uh, I need two more that are spicy. Spicy meatball. Well, you
The
gotta know
Moses one was good. I hadn't heard that one.
the which. Yeah. That's the Russian general. That's the global mafia guy. He's like,
But
you
yeah,
got.
you're right. You want to take over a people, march them out for one to raise one generation
Oh,
in the desert and bring them back.
the if you take all the people who knew how to survive a depression and you let them die alone in nursing homes while everyone is wearing masks, then you can tell the people that are left whatever you want because they won't be able to live off. They don't know how to sustenance farm anymore. Um, you know, all that knowledge dies, and there's
All right, but I sidetracked you. You own two more.
two more. People they built they basically built a CERN under Texas, and they said they canceled the project, but they just finished it, and they're actually opening like when they run those things, you like there's cloud cities in the skies sometimes because they're trying to open portals to multiple dimensions with CERN. And if you watch their the CERN videos when they do ceremonies and stuff, that's that your government isn't freaking out about that is enough to let you know what side they're on. So it's the CERN stuff is real good. One more. One more. Archons. Um, Essentially, they if they strip a human awareness down to just of themselves. People can eat your energy, and all that's left of you is that tiny little piece. So if you meditate and go into it, then you can start growing the rest of yourself back. But you have to go inside. And so this world is designed to keep you looking everywhere but in the silence in your own heart. That's the big conspiracy. So that's
Wait,
five.
and so are those non-physical beings you're saying feeding off you?
Mmm. I think they're feeding off like the same way that the audience is feeding off me, and I'm feeding off the audience right now. It's like, but they do it by
Okay,
keep.
so they're physical beings, but they have some technology that can tap into.
It doesn't even have to be a tech. Power is weird, and we don't understand it at all.
Hmm?
So that's energy and vibration, and it's something about it that I don't understand. But they, we're not the top of the food chain as we've been led to believe, and the food chain isn't entirely physical. So
Okay, yeah.
we'll put it that way. Those are my big five. Don't be concerned because you are never gonna make it out of this life alive. Never. None of it. That's not on the. That wasn't in the cards. The worst that could happen is that you don't wake up, or you wake up in a different life, and so, or you don't stop dreaming is a nice way to look at it. You go to sleep and don't stop dreaming. But I don't know if you want to be concerned. Being concerned is a completely valid emotional experience. You can rub your emotional buttons any way you choose. I mean, we're self-programming robots, and we program ourselves by the content we consume.
Hmm.
And
But
I've,
also the internal content we consume, that constant dialogue that runs in our head is the most important content. So it's being broadcast from both within and without. So you're getting hit from both sides.
that was spicier than you imagined. Okay. Thanks for asking questions, Martin. It makes me feel like I don't have to think of everything. Man, it's I my the thought I've had most recently is like there's a large swath of people that are programmed for confessionals. Like not with two people, but like the one where the Big Brother house where the guy goes off and it talks to the camera for 5 minutes, kind of confessionals.
Hmm.
So I think we could, since like, the whole live streaming thing seems to be reality TV slash Truman Show slash whatever. Um, that might be a good way to go. You remember the little cards people did for a while? That meme where like
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
there was this whole string of videos where it was like they would sit there with like 8 signs like this, and then they would just drop one sign at a time for a while. Oh, that was a thing.
Oh, I think I've seen one or two things like
Yeah.
that.
So those different style of I think about stuff like that. I think confessionals might do well, but yeah, that's all that came out.
But so, do you see how that everything you're saying relates to whatever the fuck that guy's name is, the video of his you played today, where he was making the same point that we've all been addicted to taking in all our visual input from a screen to the point where we're even virtually sitting together and pointing other people at the same screen we're looking at. And
Right.
he was pointing out that it doesn't give you the same dopamine kicks in the same way, but that you can choose instead for to set the screen aside and make the visual input an actual chunk of forest. Have you considered what
My
walking away from the screens entirely for a couple weeks and yeah, making trees and birds and sunsets and such your input so that you can pay attention to all the shit that starts replaying in your head,
right.
like, and notice what's already programmed in there instead of focusing even on what you're taking in now through your screens. It seems you're at that point where you're like, what should I be taking in?
Yeah.
Maybe even you should get away from the screen, go somewhere quiet to take in that the kind of input that you need a little more zen or inner peace to even absorb. And everything you've absorbed up till now will start replaying in your head. You'll start ricocheting and you'll really be able to see what's programmed into your head when you're staring at a tree and the archons come to mind. And then maybe after cleaning out some of that junk, like enough quiet time that you actually observe all that programming and set it aside, you'll have a better idea of what to absorb when you go back to the screen.
Yeah, that's fantasy, but I do have that fantasy often. Um,
Well, there you go. Actually, that though, as a fantasy, is at least replacing you replaying other programming on your head on the inside at that moment. Like, you haven't gone to the point of making that the actual input from the outside, but at least you're making that scenario the input from the inside. And
yeah,
keep in mind that, the brain that changes itself, neuroplasticity. If you sit and meditate in a tiger, your blood pressure will go up and your body will react like there's a tiger in the room. If you sit and meditate every day for 20 minutes on lifting weights, you'll begin to develop muscle. You'll release the human growth hormones or whatever. Your body reacts. So you, like, what you called like a fantasy, like, in a way, is at least putting that programming in. And just you fantasizing about doing that, I think if you were mindful, like if you lay and fantasized about it for 20 minutes, you'll be able to observe what it would be like to be there. Because however your body reacts is what it's like. Just like if you sit and fantasize about seeing your mom killed in front of you, you'll tense up, you'll be able to get a sense of what it would really be like. Your body responds. When you fantasize about that, whatever scenario of what you're going to do, in like a meditative way where you go into the fantasy, then observe your body. Are you more relaxed? Do you have any sense of inner calmness?
yeah. Me and meditation haven't been close, so I can't
Although
answer that.
daydreaming is a form of meditation.
Yeah, no, mainly I argue with my dialogue about like what like of all the processing of information my brain has done, what is valuable enough to share? And there's a lot of internal arguing and formatting about that. Or like I don't know what good I think I might be able to accomplish, but
Okay, we got
there's
two questions that I
oh,
think are good. So one is, do you have a consolidated worldview where all this fits in together, or is it more like a game you play or a hobby you have and you do not necessarily believe in all of it? And then Patty's question is, does knowing any of these things change anything?
well,
So
knowing
one
things.
question is, do you feel like, yeah, do you have a worldview where all of these pieces fit together and you're living this, or is this to a certain degree a game you're playing and you're not really sure?
What's this in that?
Like all of these things you're talking about.
The way things could be? Yeah, I don't know. There's no. I mean, I know it could be that way. Um, and it seems like
But sometimes your wording isn't, it could be this way. When you get talking about it, your wording is, it is this way.
yeah, yeah. So I guess it is a consolidated worldview. Um,
So it seems like when you're not asked that specifically, though, yes, you begin to act as if it's a consolidated worldview. But then when questioned on it, you step back and go, well, I don't know for certain this is it, but I realize this could be it.
yeah, I'm very open. It's like anything could be real almost at any time for me at this point because I've flip flop between like if you can go between believing the earth is round and flat and back again,
Mm-hmm.
um, anything could be real tomorrow is my
Yeah.
worldview.
Just like for me, if you can go into psychosis and believe you're in the middle of the end of the world, and then you believe you're God, and then you believe you're a worthless piece of shit that should kill itself. Like,
Right.
yeah, you realize, fuck it, you can believe anything.
It's like, and you can be all those things at the same time. We're very much multiplicities.
Mm-hmm.
But
So that
yeah,
then you're beginning to answer. Pat's question because he said, does knowing any of this change anything? And so that's one thing it changes is you begin to realize how much you could really believe anything.
It makes
And it becomes hard to believe anything anymore.
Yeah, it makes it very hard to believe anything.
So how do you live in a world where the reality is it's hard to believe in?
You know that, like, all you have to do is make it until you go to sleep again.
But do you think there's another way? Like, would you have to alter the fact that you can't believe anything to have inner peace throughout the day and go to sleep happily? Or do you think there's a way that you could still be in the exact same world, but you could enjoy yourself? Because also, like, if this is all fucked anyway, why not, like, relax? It's all out of control. Relax.
It's probably an ego structure, right? Like, what's your favorite? Like, there's this and that, whichever taste you prefer. And that's what ego is made out of. So, like, it's almost like if I were to like it here, if I was to take being a human and like enjoy it, I would feel dirty. um,
I have thoroughly enjoyed the past couple weeks. Do you look at me that way? Am I sleazy for enjoying being here in this world?
no, I don't. I don't judge other people. It's like I get it because of of my giant list of faults, you know. But that would feel like the biggest dishonesty, like that I don't see the horrible. Um, I don't know. That's interesting.
Why is it fair for me to be able to enjoy myself here and not be labeled a greasy sleazebag, and you're not allowed to?
Because you don't mind being a greasy sleazebag, right? Or I don't think you do. I don't think it makes, you know what I mean?
Well, if what you mean is I don't see how me lowering my experience of this life improves it for the people who are being abused by the cabals that exist, whichever ones are actually there.
Right.
And I do my best to make the world better in the ways I know how, aware of all my limitations. And so I look at it like in the forest. You know, everything's got its thing it's doing. And the worm's serving a purpose. So I'm just doing my own particular little bit of eating up a bit of shit and ventilating one little strip of soil. And that's good enough. No one expects anything more than that from any of us. Hey, fuck, at least I'm not one of those cabal assholes.
Well, no, but
Kids.
it's like from the perspective where if you look into factory farming and like you find out that pigs live their whole lives without getting to turn around in the way humans do things. Um,
Yeah, I took agriculture. I know how bad factory farms are.
and like,
So I work on small farms over my life.
yeah,
I
but
don't
it's like,
participate in the factory farming, and I support the small farms. Like in my interaction with the industry. What
okay,
I'm saying is I've been involved in the industry, and so I got involved in the parts that I consider the better parts of it. I didn't go to war with the factory farms.
all right, but the point I'm trying to get at is like when when you look down the rabbit holes that I have, you get to where that's basically us too. Is like, you know, you're
Hmm.
born and they shove you through a school, put you in a job, work you till you retire, and then feed off your money by keeping you alive way longer than they should. Um, so it's like not hating
Yeah, but
that.
that's not the framework I focus on.
Right,
It's
right.
not it's not
I
that I'm
get
not
that.
aware some people operate under that framework, and I am aware I to a certain degree participate in systems that operate in that framework. But to me, that's subservient to a framework where all of this is going on so that we can have very complex spiritual experiences. And this is all for the best of us. So I also don't perceive even that anything's gone wrong here. This is supposed to be what's happening. We're all big boys, and we wanted a real adventure that was X-rated. We didn't want some safe little fucking Disney story.
Right.
Yeah. We wanted to do this. We wanted it to get this fucked up and this wonderful. Because we were like, fuck this. We're putting on like a real show.
Yeah, there's this giant.
Every extreme. You'll experience heaven and hell and everything in between.
There's this giant disconnect between me and the person who agreed to incarnate on this planet in this body. And like,
yeah,
I've built my
I perceive
ego
it as
on
well.
that. I've built my ego on it. That's like most of who I am now. And I don't, transitioning to a different framework is unnatural and difficult at this point.
Well, it's death. Mythically, you're facing a death here, not a change.
Right.
And I just mean to jump to my framework, absolutely. You would have to take that ego you sense that blocks your connection to the part of you that agreed to all this nonsense, and you'd have to hammer it up on a cross and watch it bleed and cry for its mummy.
I'd probably have to be the one to stab it in the side, too.
Well, you'd be both the guy on the cross and the dick stabbing him in the side. Yeah.
Right, yeah. What do I want?
You're a big boy.
Life?
You can handle that. You'll do it when you're ready.
See, my entire, like, Martin asked me this question. He says, what do you want in life? And, like, my entire identity is essentially, the answer to that question is for it to be over already.
I understand that framework, too.
You know, it's like, first of all, I've blown the first 40 years, like, being a cautionary tale to my peers on how not to live. But when I look forward, it's like, if I'm lucky, I get to play with some grandkids, and that'll be nice to be able to do what, like, my great grandpa was for me growing up. But, like, that's going to be the highlight, accompanying, like, years and years of body decay and things falling apart and not working anymore. And
some of the process of working towards grandkids is fun.
Yes, yeah. So, I don't know. What do I want in life? I don't know. I'm still upset about how crappy the default is. If you don't, you know. I don't know. What do I want? I want that vacation. I want the solitude weekend Mercury was selling me. The fantasy. I'll take one of those, please. I'll put that in
Let's see if I ever get my retreat up, if that stupid manic delusion ever manifests.
I know,
that'll give
right?
you an excuse where you'll have to go do it.
See, that's kind of the weird thing about, like, my experience with marijuana is, like, when I'm suicidally depressed, it will kick, if I get a good strain, it'll kick me into hypomania. And hypomania is like the best place to be because you don't make as many mistakes as the manic does, but you're also not anything underneath it, right? So.
And actually, I was talking to my dad today about it because, like, I'm playing with that delusion of what if I ever actually could do it. And yeah, like, if the universe ever provides me the ability to do it, I think if I could grab a little piece of land around here, and my dad's got the sawmill, I think you'd get a lot out of coming up here and picking up a chainsaw and felling some trees with me, and spending like the evenings, spending the evenings getting stoned, talking about shit around a campfire, spending our days like cutting down some trees, turning them into boards on the mill, and yeah, just get all that programming out of your head.
That would be a rebirth, like. So yes, that's what I want out of life, Martin. We just figured it out. Fucking A. All right, now
All right.
So I don't know how to start a GoFundMe page. Does like maybe Nolan can figure that out for us, and we'll be like,
We'll build up. We're gonna work towards
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that.
It's I gotta
Well,
spin down
actually,
from the
one
main
thing we
item.
thought is we could try the experiment of instead first doing the thing to see if people want to contribute to get me better equipment. Um, like to start some sort of GoFundMe just for that, so it's a much smaller dollar amount. And then
Yeah,
if that went well, then maybe we could do one for a bigger project. Like for the retreat.
yeah. Of the ways to do live streaming, that's the less destructive ways to generate funds. You know, is Rumi is not the same guy who's the wow.
What?
I pressed something on the keyboard. He Patty dropped a Rumi quote. When you change the way you see the world will see the world you see will change.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like making affirmation level bullshit though.
No, but that's also the fucking double slit experiment. When you change your focus, it changes from a particle to a wave. It's just fucking true, and it's true on that multi-dimensional as within, so without.
Yeah, well, what did this focus do to me that deserves to be discarded? You know, it served me the best it knew how. And for me to just
Yeah.
abandon this focus is
Well, what if that's what it wants though? Is the same as you? What if it's at the point where it's the one going, I want the fuck out of here. I did my fucking job, guys. You said I come teach them this, and then I'm supposed to go. Like, what if it's done and it wants you to continue the same way you eventually want your grandkids living some great life? It wants two versions of you later to be living in whatever fucking garden you can build with grandkids. It's like, yeah, enough of this fucking Grizz. Let's do the next one that moves us towards the old Grizz playing with his grandkids.
well, shit, man. If that's the case, I'm gonna have to come on sorting with Mark and like live stream about it, or it's never gonna happen.
Yes, we should do that sometime, or this will never happen. In fact, we should have been doing that right now.
Whoa. Everything is perfect when you get hit by a bus. That's. I'm sorry I've distilled your entire story into that little quip, but it works for me.
Hey, that worked for me too.
Oh. Okay, guys, I'm out unless you want to chat more. Let's do one of your moments of silence, of awkward silence.
Well, I won't do an awkward silence, but
Oh,
yeah, I'll take a
I want to sit there awkward
sacred
about it.
silence.
All right, I'm silent. Hmm. I can't do it, man. I was sitting there thinking about fear nipples.
Oh, see, I just started psychically connecting to someone in the audience or having a delusion of that.
Wow.
We had a completely different
I
experience
hate to
there.
interrupt that with fear nipples, but like I was thinking about that, man. The Archon conspiracy is like when you watch conspiracy videos, you grow a fear nipple off the top of your head, and the scareder you get, man, there's a little Archon sucking on your fear nipple. So then, for
Do
some
you like
reason,
having your nipples sucked on?
not my fear nipple.
Oh.
So anyway, that's. I think I'm just gonna like bounce and end our this instead
Well,
of
yeah,
doing
if
the
we if
smoke
we
break.
solved your problem, if you figured out what you want out of life,
Yeah, I'm fixed. I'm
yeah,
fixed.
we're done there.
I'm
Everything's
sorted.
solved.
I'm sorted enough. Stay tuned for
All
the new YouTube channel. Sorted enough.
right. So thanks for joining us, everyone. I don't know what the fuck's coming up. We'll do another lunatic patrol sometime, and I have a bunch of stuff up in the air that I don't know when it'll come down. But yeah, so we'll see what the fuck happens. In the meantime, I hope everyone's thoroughly enjoying their now or having the exact horrible experience of now that they wanted.
All right, bye everybody. Cover your fear nipples. How do I stop this?
I don't know.
I can do this part. And then